And we're live. And this is the new virtual version of nonlinear editing, which is about as virtual as you can get. So basically, everything is nonlinear now, and basically, space no longer matters. Wherever you are in our classroom, which is going to be interesting. Okay, so the purpose of this week's lecture material is basically to get you started. And so today's lecture will really be about the general expectations and how we're moving forward with the class. Okay, so, and we will be presenting it in this basic format from now on. So, welcome to the class, and I'm going to start with some general declarations about how I'm going to basically be moving forward with COM 3040 nonlinear editing for the remainder of the class, and also generally is how I handle online classes because I have some experience with that. First of all, we're going to do weekly content, and that means that we're going to be presenting at least some structure here, and you're expected to respond on a regular basis, meaning we're not going to wait until the last second of the semester to turn in everything. It doesn't work that way anymore because we have to basically make sure that we're doing this step by step. So there will be weekly content. Weekly expectations. So I'm going to be expected to post every week. I mean, let's face it, folks. I have people I report to as well, and they want to make sure that I'm still here. And so that's one of the reasons why we're doing this. And so I'm still getting paid, you're still paying, and so we are going to be checking each other in some ways. Okay, all assignments will be graded. All assignments were graded before, but in this particular case, it's going to be a little bit more obvious. Major assignments still exist, but will be modified. Obviously, in this particular class, they have to be because things have gotten worse. Progress on major assignments will also be monitored. Now, this was something that was always a problem before, meaning that due to procrastination, whatever you want to call it, we've had situations where major projects appear out of nowhere at the end of the semester. That was never a good idea, and at this point it really cannot be possible at all because I have to know how you're progressing so that I can help you, especially now that it's not quite so easy to get together and view things and answer questions. Okay, all grades will be posted on Blackboard. That will be the medium for all of this. Further declaration. One thing that should be good news is that class times are open, meaning that you don't have to access what I say exactly when I say it. For most classes, we will not be meeting in a synchronous fashion. For some classes, we will be, but not all of them. So for the most part, every week you'll be able to access your information whenever you really want to, but you will be expected to have done so that week. Materials available at any time. The lectures don't disappear. You can go back and rewatch them. All the information available that you have to see will be presented to you and will always be there. Some classes may meet virtually, as we've talked about, particularly where we're having discussions or critiques that are important for everybody else to participate in. Discussion boards will be available, and I will be checking them. If you have questions or concerns, that will be a very good forum for you to use. And students from the class, if you see something on the forum that you can comment on, please feel free to chime in. I don't claim to be the only dispenser of knowledge, so we can all kind of share in this. This is kind of important. You will not be asked to post things to chat lines just to prove that you still exist. Now, I disagree with some of my colleagues on this. Not everybody approaches online education the same way. Basically, there's kind of a scale here. So let me go back to this. So on one end of the scale, let's say way over here, basically you have no supervision at all, where basically you just post, kind of like writing a book. You just put the book up there, and then at the end of the semester you take a test on it, and then you get it, and whatever you get on the test. So that's actually a model that's used sometimes. Some online courses, I think they used to be called correspondence courses, they may actually work that way. On the other hand, on this end of the spectrum, you have these situations. I know I did some work for University of Phoenix. It was yeah, University of Phoenix a long time ago, where you would literally have to post every day about something, and that means you got to make stuff up. And so they post a topic up there, and let's say you had absolutely nothing to say about the topic. Well, you got to say something, and so people would be posting gibberish. And so basically, the poor instructor that's got to read all this stuff basically gets to the point where they're just giving you credit for having posted gibberish. And I don't want to play that game. So we're going to put it right in the middle here, where you'll be having regular assignments that you have to respond to. And those are really where the grade is going to be based on for participation. Okay, let's move back to here. Quizzes and assignments will prove attendance, which I just basically said. You're required to obtain the software, resources, and technology. Now, that's particularly important to this class. Just adjust this for a second. So, basically, the resources, the Adobe software, is literally the core of the. Go back here. The Adobe software is literally the core of the class because that's editing. We're basically teaching nonlinear editing, and so that happens to be Adobe Premiere. If you don't have Adobe Premiere, then there's simply no way you can do the class, and so you have to download Adobe Premiere. You can do so for free. The same license that we use for the lab is now available to you, at least for this particular situation. And of course, I believe Adobe would offer that to you also. So there's a procedure for that. You've been given an announcement that should be still available under the announcements that tells you how to do that. So that is absolutely critical. You've got to get the Adobe Suite on your system this week. It really has to happen. That also includes, by the way, every other program in the suite. Photoshop, for example, Audition for audio work, and of course After Effects, which is a useful program as well. So you will need those. And of course, get familiar with Blackboard and how Blackboard works. That shouldn't be too much of an issue. Okay, and going back here. The field project is the obvious concern that we have. Some of you have started work on your field project. I don't know if that's still going to be possible to do it that way in most cases. Alternatives. This is where we all have to get creative. Now, there's a couple of issues here with alternatives, meaning that on one hand, these projects are normally done in teams. I've already been contacted by a few of you that said our team went off in different directions, so we couldn't do the field project. Well, that's horrible. That basically means that what you've invested in the project so far, you wouldn't be able to do as easily. Now, maybe you can come up with a way of doing it. That'd be great if you could, because you may have alternatives to the means of recording these things, and you also might be able to share footage using various types of file transfer systems. So try to come up with alternatives where at all possible. Alternate video equipment. Normally, I would never want to see this happen, but we don't have the ability at this time to use the traditional video equipment that's normally available. So that leaves us with some of the non-traditional equipment. For example, some of you may be using DSLRs for video work, which can be done. A DSLR is actually a great means of recording video if you have one. So that's something that you may have or have access to. Great. If you got that, wonderful. Now, very last resort, these things. Please don't do this if you don't have to. But for this particular assignment, there's no reason why it can't work. Only because the idea is to make the video. These cell phone cameras do have limitations, but they also have perfectly good resolution. So there's ways that you can get around that. So if I go back here. Like I said, cell phone video, ugh, but it's there if you need it. Now, this is another one of these things. All of these videos, and I'll have to go back here for a minute. All of these videos, you're used to using this thing like this, or like this. And so you see people holding these up there. Oh, it never worked. recording all this stuff. Oh, selfie, selfie. So don't do that. Hold it like this. Let me explain why. Because if you look at the screen that's right in front of your face now, you'll see that it's in a horizontal format. If you shoot in a vertical format, then the screen is going to have these borders on it, like that, and it's not really going to look right. So shoot horizontally. At least do that much for me, so that we have a nice horizontal format. Okay. All video must be edited in Adobe, which we talked about, and submit simple proposals of new simple proposals if necessary. For example, let me back up on this. Let's say that you don't feel that you can do your field project the way you were going to do it. Come up with something that you can do. It could be the same topic, but in a different way. Like, for example, let's say that you can no longer get to the locations that you were going to use, but maybe there are other locations. Let's say you can't interview the same people that you could before, or maybe you can. Maybe you have to do those as online interviews somehow. Maybe that's a possibility. Maybe you can use OBS Studio to record these conversations. Maybe that's the best you're going to be able to do. That's possible. That would be a way of approaching it. In fact, maybe that could even allow you to still collaborate on field projects. Okay, but maybe you need to come up with something different. Maybe you need to come up with a completely different idea. Fine, go ahead and do that. Tell me what it is. It could be you can't work in teams. Maybe this has got to be an individual project. Maybe instead of a few group projects, we're going to have many individual projects. That's okay too. But one way or another, you have to produce something, and it's got to be reliable. So that's what you need to think about. The service projects, same issues. It could be that you've already done the service project. It could be that you've done a segment for MU reports. It could be that there's some new segment for MU reports you can do. Maybe what you can do is some kind of a local story or situation, even related to your current situation, that you can submit as part of some kind of a collaboration for MU reports. It could be that you can do that. It could be that whatever it is that you can create, admittedly maybe not ideal, can be part of a larger project. And so you might want to get in touch with the people at MU Reports and find out if there's some idea that you can all agree on for a collective project. Who knows? Individual news packages, like we said, come up with something that maybe can be useful even if you're producing it locally. And stories about, basically, I'm just kind of spitballing here, but you get the general idea. Now, the casualties of the class, what we can't do. We can't do crew points. Sorry, it's not going to work. Well, it has worked already for some of you. Some of you already have crew points. Those are now considered extra credit. But we can't really do any more crew points, only because all of the wonderful projects that we had all set up to handle that have just been destroyed. We no longer have the mock trial. The mock trial was canceled, much to our dismay. I don't know if that other project that Professor Vonnegut was talking about is happening, but I seriously doubt it is, so you can kiss that one goodbye. And obviously at this point, I can't expect you to do crew points. And so any crew points you've currently accrued will be considered extra credit points. And if you can accrue crew points, obviously that will not be factored into your grade. More exercises and specific lessons are going to be involved in the class. Since you have the program, at least we can do certain exercises, and you will be presented with footage to edit. I've already sent you links to some. Just to get started with the basics, you'll also be expected to shoot video for certain projects, and so that will have to happen as well. Now, once again, those of you who are in some of my other classes have already gone through this, so I understand. But there will be an assignment due Wednesday. I'm asking you to assess your situation and give me an honest assessment of how you plan to work through this in an online form. Now, I don't expect you to have all the answers now, but I expect you to try, to start. This may be a process. It may not be as easy as it looks on the surface, but I expect you to present me with a coherent plan. And the more coherent the plan, the better the grade. Now, of course, if you don't send me anything at all, your grade is going to be 0. So please be sure to do that. Now, once again, I want to thank you as individuals because each one of you is important. Each one of you is a customer. Thank you, Ford. Thank you, Semi. Thank you, Garen. Thank you, Virginia. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Hunter. Thank you, Marco. And thank you, Deontay. Thank you for hanging in there. You are individuals to me. I'm not just throwing information in your direction and not really caring whether you respond to it at all. It's important to me that we all have this shared experience because this is what's going to make this work. And this is what you're paying for as students at Methodist University. And this is a quality education, which we're going to try to provide you with. And so this is week 1. Let's see if we can get through this and enjoy it as much as humanly possible. Everyone have a great day.